India's best placement preparation provider. Hi everybody, welcome to placement season, India's best placement preparation provider. Extended lockdown online training webinar series, and I'm Johnsy joining with you on day 9's reading comprehension. We are going to see the tips and tricks that will help you solve reading comprehension. Most of us feel that reading comprehension is the easiest part in any verbal ability part question. But trust me, all of us fail to get the maximum marks in any reading comprehension. Though reading comprehensions are easy, we are unable to get the 100% of marks on a reading comprehension passage. So you need to know the tricks that will help you to solve any kind of reading comprehension questions. As usual, this session is power-packed with previous year questions on reading comprehension from various companies. So stay tuned till the end to know how and what kind of reading comprehension passages could be asked in any company for that instance. So now, without further ado, let's move into today's session. First, let's see today's agenda. Reading comprehension and its type. Purpose of reading comprehension, how to solve it, vocabulary coaching for reading comprehension. Knowing what kind of reading comprehension you are actually looking into will really help you to understand the passage as well as the questions. Purpose of reading comprehension. You have to understand why a reading comprehension question is asked in your verbal ability part. What skill does it actually test you for? So how do you solve it? Yes, I have a procedure that will help you solve any kind of reading comprehension. Vocabulary coaching for reading comprehension is totally different from that we used for sentence correction or sentence completion. Sentence correction and sentence completion are entirely a different world, while reading comprehension is another. So without further ado, let's move into our session today. What is reading comprehension? In reading comprehension, you are given a passage. You're expected to read the passage, understand the passage, and then questions are asked from the passage. You have to choose the right option from the objectives given below based on the passage. It sounds really simple. In fact, the question is given, the answer is also given in the passage. But trust me, reading comprehension passages are becoming more difficult these days. So you have to understand what kind of skill are you going to apply in this part in reading comprehension. So reading comprehensions in every company test, generally they weigh from 3 marks to 10 marks, sometimes even 15 marks. So having a handful of marks from reading comprehension part alone will really help your overall score, whereas help you to clear the cutoff in verbal ability easily. So let's move on into types of reading comprehension. The first one is inference-based passage. Inference-based passage is nothing but a passage is given. The author introduces an idea, elaborates on the idea, discusses on the idea, or even argues on the idea. And then based on all the study that he has made from the start of the passage till the end of the passage, he gives a conclusion. The conclusion may agree with the first idea or disagree or partially agree. So this is inference-based passage. So in passages like this, your question is also inference-based, where you have to think, logically understand the outcome of the passage and then answer the question that is given to you. The next one is indirect passage. In an indirect passage, the author talks about something, but the question is in an indirect way. You don't easily jump into the answer. You will have to think, understand the passage more clearly and then settle on the answer. Direct passage. Direct passages are very easy. Say, for example, today's online webinar was handled by Mrs. Chauncey. Who handled online webinar for you? Chauncey. See, this simple. The passage is given, the question is also given. You just read the question, come back to the passage and understand the answer is right in front of you. So this is direct passage. Now, look at this passage. This is a direct passage and the questions are also direct. I will give you 20 seconds time to read the passage. The questions were given here on purpose. How did the lion wake up? It is in the very first line of the passage. The lion was woken up by a tiny mouse. Did the mouse and the lion become friends? The last line of the passage clearly says that from that day on, the lion and mouse became friends. So, you have a question and the answer is right in front of you. It's directly taken from the passage. You don't have to think about it, logically understand it, relate 2 or 3 points, understand the flow of the passage, nothing. The question is that the answer is also there right in front of you. This is a direct passage. Now, moving on to indirect passage. In this passage is a bit lengthy and it has a lot of sentences or words that might take little time for you to understand. So I will give you 40 seconds to read this. Hope you have read the passage clearly. Let's move on to the question. The expression customs and ceremonies means fairs and festivals, habits and traditions, usual practices and religious rites, superstitions and formalities. So, what could be the right answer here? Habits and traditions. Where is the answer? The answer is in the 5th line of the passage. They are made to secure the property of the citizens against theft and damage, to protect the rights of communities and castes, to carry out their customs and ceremonies. So, communities and castes have usual practices and religious rights. How do you come to this conclusion? The continuation of the line. So long as they do not conflict with the rights of others. Okay, so from this you can understand that usual practices and religious rights should not interfere with the freedom of others. So this passage again, we have one inference type question. Now that you have already read the passage once, I will give you 10 seconds to come with a better title. Your time starts now. A suitable title for the passage would be The Function of Army, Laws and People's Rights, The Fear of Law and Citizen Security, The Functions of Police. This is an inference-based passage. How do you say it's an inference-based passage? Because of the question. So now let's move on into the purpose of reading comprehension. The actual purpose of any reading comprehension question is to check your versatility with your vocabulary. They want you to understand how well you're able to understand the differences between a word when used in a sentence. Check your comprehending skill and to check how well you can apply the comprehended data. What is comprehending skill? It is the skill that helps you to understand any given passage. So you are expected to understand and also to apply that understanding into action. So what are the three main reasons of reading comprehension? One is to check your comprehending skills. Two, to see how well you can apply the comprehended skill. And then check your versatility with vocabulary. So this is the main reason why reading comprehension is given to you. So what are the tips to do reading comprehension? First one, read to understand. Do not read the passage just because you want to answer the question. So when you do this, what happens? Every time you will be in a position to read the passage again and again. For each question, you have to start reading from the first word till the full stop of the passage. So read to understand and not only to find the answer. Look out for clues. The passage generally has a lot of clues in it. So you have to look out for the clues. And what are the clues that you can look out? I will explain to you in course of time. Do the elimination. If see, in sentence completion, we did this. If there are 4 options given to you, the first thing that you'll have to do is eliminate the options that would be wrong, entirely wrong, and slowly, based on the clues, eliminate the other options and land in the right option. So now, when I told you to read to understand, it is very important to understand what are the types of reading that you need to practice in order to crack reading comprehension. So what are the types of readings that you need to know? Number 1, skimming. What is skimming? Skimming is nothing but running through the passage, a very fast kind of reading where you just want to understand the gist of the passage. What is the passage actually talking about? Just to understand the gist of the passage, you do skimming. What is scanning? Scanning is that, say for example, the question is talking about one particular person. So you start scanning the whole passage looking only for that name. Once you get the name, you try to read a little more carefully to get into the answer. This is called as scanning. And last one is critical reading. Critical reading is the most important skill that you need to cultivate in reading comprehension. So what is critical reading? Critical reading means to read the passage, to understand it. To read the passage, to grab the key points. To read the passage, to entirely remember at least the main points discussed. So this is critical reading. Critical reading is nothing but reading the passage with an intention to completely understand it. This is called as critical reading. So all these 3 types of reading has to be mastered in order to get the maximum mark in reading comprehension. Students find it easy to do skimming and scanning, but while doing critical reading is where they lose track of time, where they lose patience and start becoming very careless. So critical reading is one important skill that you have to start practicing from today. So what are the steps to do reading comprehension now? Let's come to the steps. First, read the question. Don't jump into the passage. Try reading the passage from the top to end and then go and read the question. When you do that, you feel that the question is totally alien. You won't even understand. You won't even be able to believe that the question is asked based on the passage. So don't jump into the passage first. Go read the question. Look out for the keyword in the question. So every question has a keyword in it. Underline or try to remember the keyword. So once you got the keyword, now do critical reading of the passage first. So now after having the keyword in your hand, go back to the passage and try reading it very carefully. For the first time when you read the passage, do a critical reading. Do not skim, do not scan. Trying or being very motivated and persuasive in only finding the answer of the first question. No, read the passage very carefully. Do critical reading in the passage first. Now, as you move on to the next question, so based on the keyword, just take it and go to scanning. Now that you have clearly read the passage, start doing scanning. So this is how you try to do a reading comprehension passage. You don't jump into the passage. What do? You read your question. When you read your question, what do? You take the keyword from the question. So while reading the question, please do not read the options given below. Do not read the options given below. What should you do? You should wait until only after you read the passage, you'll have to go read the options. Just read the question alone, grab the keyword, go back to the passage, do critical reading for the first time. Second time, third time, fourth time, do scanning. Clear? So now look out for clues. So what are the clues that you can possibly look out for in any reading comprehension passage? The first one is tense, modifiers, tone, contrast indicators, support indicators, conclusion indicators, and finally cause and effect indicators. So these are the highlighting words in any passage, especially in an inference based passage. Please take down a pen and a paper or your notes and start taking notes. It will really help you. All the things that I'm going to teach you henceforth is new to you. You wouldn't have come across this. So please give an additional attention. So what are the clues that you're going to look for? Number 1, tense. Second, modifiers. 3, tone. 4, contrast indicators. 5, support indicators. 6, conclusion indicators. And 7, cause and effect indicators. So how do these clues help us? Number 1, tense. It assists with comprehension skill. See, if the passage is mixed with tenses, will you be ever able to understand the meaning of the passage? No. So when with the tense, there are a lot of things that you can understand. So it improves the written expression. It helps with cognitive organization and structure. The tense gives a proper structure. It will help you to come to a conclusion, especially in inference type questions. So this is the use of tense. Modifiers. What are the 2 types of modifiers that we have seen? One, adjectival phrases and adjectival clauses, which modifies nouns and adverbs. Adverbial phrases and adverbial clauses, which modifies other parts of speech, particularly verbs, adjectives, and other verbs, as well as whole phrases or clause. See, you don't have to understand such complex thing. There are 2 types of modifiers. One are adjective modifiers, and the other one is adverb modifiers. What is an adjective? Describes noun. What is an adverb? Describes verb. This much understanding is enough. So next. So now we are looking at the tone of the passage. So when I say tone of the passage, acerbic, harsh, severe, bitter, caustic, vitriolic. all these mean the same. So, what is a harsh tone of the passage? The author may reveal his disagreement with a particular theory or express his disdain towards a person in an acerbic tone. Once you identify this tone, you will be able to answer the author agree disagree questions. See, tones are something that we don't give importance at all. But in inference type questions, it is there is almost a 75 to 80 percentage of chance to get questions based on tones. The author reveals his disagreement with a particular theory or may express his disdain towards a person. So with this, what type of questions will you be able to answer? Author agree, disagree. So angry, indignant, angry or indignant. So this is very similar to the above type. The author's anger is again shown towards the subject. How do you justify your anger towards any unfair system? What do? You may start giving some arguments, facts, examples. So similarly, the author intends to justify his anger by stating various reasons. So such reading comprehension passage revolve around bias systems, politics, followed by authorities. Questions based on such passages are generally direct and easy to answer. So now, what is a harsh passage? That is an acerbic, harsh, severe, bitter, caustic, or vitriolic passage. The author is angry. There is a disagreement. The author disagrees with something. And so this helps you to answer the author agree disagree question. And the tone of the passage is acerbic, harsh, severe, bitter, caustic, or vitriolic. What is an angry passage? The author is angry towards a particular subject. And how do you express anger? You start giving causes, effects, you argue whether to give facts and examples. So this is what you should remember. The next one, apologetic. As the name states, it is used to express guilt, some mishappening, tragic moments, etc. The passage is based on the tone. When they generally talk of theories that are related to war, natural disaster, catastrophes, etc. So what do these things do? They give a very bad effect on mankind. Such passages may also include a lot of facts and figures. Okay, and what is belligerent? So you think two warring parties are talking to each other. What do? They aggressively accuse each other. And when the author adopts this kind of a tone, the allies and the Axis powers had towards each other. What feeling should you think of? This is the feeling. So these kind of reading comprehension passages have this kind of tone. Especially inference based passages and inference type questions are based on this kind of passage. While favoring one thing, person or group over the other, we tend to use a biased tone to display our inclination towards it. So in the same way, the author also has a favor of something while he is not in favor of something else. So once you identify the author's stand, you'll be able to figure out the answers that is required in the question. See, this type of tone, identifying this type of tone or author stand will help you answer questions like, in the author's point of view, what do you think is the best choice? Something like that. Commiserating, this type of tone is used to express grief, show sympathy for a person or a group of people. Say they are suffering from their cultural norms or prejudiced practices. So the author intends to familiarize the reader with the trauma undergone by the sufferer. So when the author attempts to make known that the sufferer is undergoing a lot of trauma because of cultural norms or prejudiced practices. Patronizing. So, a condescending tone implies an attitude of patronizing superiority of a particular thing or a person. So, as you would expect, such reading comprehension passages may display snobbish or scornful tones with regard to things considered inferior in author's view, which means the author will have a very sharp view or very strong view in regard to things that the author feel is not right or is not in the right quality or is inferior to his view. Next, contemptuous. This kind of tone exhibits author's disdain or contempt towards the subject. You will often find this kind of passage treating the subject in a very scornful or ridiculous way. So here the author is trying to bring about his state of being unhappy towards a particular subject. Cynical. This is used to talk about people when you find they are distrustful. So here comes the use of cynical tone in the whole passage. The passage will be written in cynical tone to reveal author's view of the society being driven purely by self-interest, which means here when a passage is talking about the selfishness of people and how a society is driven by it, the author may use cynical tone, which means the author is not happy or ready to trust the society. Dogmatic. So, based on firm beliefs and perspective on a particular aspect of life, a dogmatic passage is written. So, this dogmatic passage comes into tone when you stick on to a particular belief. So the author is very assertive in his points and uses a dogmatic tone to convey his point as well. Emotional. So while narrating an incident, event, or story, the author might use an emotional tone. Why is emotional tone used here? To bring out his feelings. Such reading comprehensions may be very complex, and you have to reread it, once and twice in order to arrive on the right answer. Ethical. Ethical means it is talking about growth in corporate structure. Say, for example, you are talking about various things that you need to follow in order to be just in your side. So, such kind of reading comprehension passages is in CAT exam. So, the level of difficulty is CAT. So, the author may talk about righteousness, morality, honesty, etc. So, this is ethical. Humanistic. Humanistic tone of writing means it is related to welfare, value, and other related to human affairs. So, a very good idea that could be shown as example is that you would be able to glance at the questions before reading the passage. It will help you to grasp the essence of the passage. What does the passage actually talk about? This is humanistic passage. Next is humorous passage. Humorous passage is nothing but the tone of the passage is very witty and funny. It is amusing. It's nice to read upon, and you just have to focus on what message the author is trying to convey in a very light-hearted manner. What is light-hearted manner? Not being very strong, but then the author is trying to convey a very difficult message or even a nice message in a very humorous and happy way. So this is called as humorous passage, tone of the passage. Introspective. So, where is an introspective tone used in the passage? To self-examine and reflect on one's actions and feelings. The author is trying to self-examine, reflect on his own actions and feelings. Incendiary or provocative type. It is used to say, points in negative or positive aspect. That's all. Laudatory is descriptive passages, and it is used to discuss a particular subject based on a few justification. Motivating. A motivating tone of writing is used to inspire and propel, and also use influential quotes and examples. Pedestrian. So when a passage is not interesting or it is not complex as well. It is called as pedestrian tone of writing. Populist tone is used to discuss theories and characteristics exhibited by a particular population. Romantic, we all of us know it is fanciful, it is exaggerated, it keeps talking about something that is very fancy. A lot of emotions and feelings are involved in this. Sarcastic, you have a strong disliking and you are going to express it in a very indirect way without sounding too serious. This is called as sarcasm, and this type of passage is called as sarcastic or ironical passage. Speculative, so where does speculative passage come into appearance? It is an economic and political part, especially in newspapers, where the reading passage is explaining theories and putting their views in a very hypothetical manner. Expert opinions are discussed. This is where speculative tone of passage comes into picture. Technical is nothing but, as the name is suggesting, it has a lot of technical jargons. What is jargon? Complex words. They are used to write the passage. So this is mainly used to discuss the core ideas of particular field, and it is accompanied by lots of facts and figures. Okay, let's go back again. Please write down the different tones of the passage, and also a gist about it. Technical, speculative, sarcastic. Romantic, populist, pedestrian. Motivating, laudatory, provocative, introspective. Humorous, humanistic, ethical, emotional, dogmatic, cynical, contemptuous, patronizing, commiserating, biased, belligerent, apologetic, angry, harsh. So now moving on to the next part. Let's come to contrast indicators. What are the different words that are used as contrast indicators? I can give you 20 seconds times to note down this. These are the main contrast indicators that you can see in a passage. If you feel you're not able to understand the meaning of any of these contrast indicators, please comment below. I shall answer your questions. In spite of, although, nevertheless, whereas, while, in contrast to. Support indicators. Again, I'm giving you a minute time to note this down, and in case if you're not able to understand the meaning of any of these phrases given here, please comment. I shall help you understand the meaning. Because, since, for, due to fact, as shown by, as indicated by, assuming that, owing to, considering that. conclusion indicators, and I'll give you another 1 minute. Time up. So, therefore, thus, consequently, this proves as a result, this suggests that we can conclude from which it follows that. Cause and effect indicators. I'll give you another 1 minute. Because, so, since, if, then, therefore, this led to, reason why, as a result, may be due to, effect of, consequently, for this reason. Compare and contrast. These are very important indicators. Please note them down carefully. I'll give you a minute time. Comparing and contrast, as well as, however, also different than, to, but, like, on the other hand, much as, while, similarly, although, similar to, less than, both, yet, though, unlike. These are the compare and contrast indicators. Okay, so now let me explain what each indicators are and how are they helpful to us. Let us start with contrast indicators. What is a contrast indicator? A contrast indicator is nothing but, see, the author is trying to so show the difference how two subjects are opposite to. Say, for example, they're talking about politicians. The author is talking about politicians. Politicians are supposed to maintain the, um, although politicians are supposed to maintain peace and order in the country, they most of the time become the reasons for chaos. Here, too, there is a contrast to the actual way politicians should behave, but how they behave, there is a contrast. So, what word did I use there? Although. So now let's see each word with an example. In spite of, in spite of losing his wallet, Toby had a pleasant vacation. Although, although I have a British accent, I am actually half American. Nevertheless, Roger Federer is playing terrible of late. Nevertheless, I expect him to beat Andy Murray. Whereas Alana takes the bus to school, whereas I like to cycle. Whilst While Andrew enjoys savory, Rebecca prefers sweet. In contrast to the South American climate is somewhat humid in contrast to weather in Europe. See, two different things, two opposite things are taken and spoken about. Support indicators. Support indicators are nothing but they like to support a given idea. If an idea is introduced, these support indicators add value to it, they stress on it, and they support the idea that is given before. The employment in the country is increasing in the recent days, as shown by the recent news report of BBC. So, employment is increasing in the country, and additional proof to it is the news report of BBC. So, these are support indicators. What are conclusion indicators? In case the author of the passage is talking about something, they have discussed a lot. Now they have to come to a conclusion. The words used for that is conclusion indicators. So let me give you 30 seconds time. I want you to comment what is cause and effect indicator. We have already seen this in sentence completion. Please think and answer me in the comments and watching them. A cause and effect indicators, I can see all of you are actively participating. A cause and effect indicator means either it talks about the cause of an event or talks about the effect of it. See, there is a lot of drought in the country because there is no rain. This is cause. Now let us see an example of effect. The principal was already angry on Nisha. This led to her suspension from her college. Effect. The anger of the principal. What effect did bring? Suspension. Compare and contrast. It is used to compare or it is used to show the contrast between two ideas or objects. Now let us come into vocabulary. The vocabulary part in reading comprehension, like I have told, is totally different. So what you have to do over here is try to guess the meaning of the unknown word. How do you do that? You try to read the sentence, understand the meaning of the sentence, and then try guessing it out. So how do you understand the meaning of it? You read the previous line and then you read the next line again if you still feel that you're not able to crack the sentence. So this is called as this is how vocabulary in reading comprehension is taken care. That is, in case you don't understand the meaning of a particular word in a sentence, read the sentence once and try twice, give a pause, read it slowly. Still, if you're not able to read it, read the previous line and also the line that follows your current line. So reading these three lines together will give you an overall understanding of the word and you'll be easily able to guess the meaning of the word given to you. So now let's move on into practice exercise. This question has been asked in Wipro in the previous year question, and the passage is kind of little complex. So I want to give you 2 minutes time to read the passage and try to understand it. So let's try this. Let me give you 2 to 3 minutes now, and your time starts now. So meantime, if you have any doubts, please comment it in the live chat. I will reply to them. Time up. Let's see the first question. A suitable title for the passage. So, what type of question is this? Can you comment it in the live chat, please? Yes, this is an inference based question. The function of the army, laws and people's rights, the fear of the law and citizen security, the functions of police. Right answer is the functions of police, because the passage from the beginning till the end is continuously talking about the efforts the police make, and what are the roles and responsibilities of them. What they talk about the army is very less. The laws and people rights is not focused as well. Okay, so the functions of the police, how do you know it is police? From the last line. So now let's move on to the next question. Now, the time that I would give you for reading the passage will be very less. Now, earlier I gave you 3 minutes. Now I'll give you only 1 minute to come to a conclusion, because you've already done critical reasoning. So now, what should you do? You should do scanning. Okay. So 1 minute time, and your time starts now. Time up. So, what are the functions of army as per the passage? They have to maintain law and order. They have to prevent murder. They protect the rights of the citizens, especially. All these things, when do they happen? They happen during extraordinary time. How do you get this? You get this by reading the whole passage. You can make it out. Okay. So now let's move on to the next question, and I'll give you 1 minute time for it as well. Time up. According to the writer, which of the following is not the responsibility of the police? To protect the privilege of all citizens, to check violent activities of citizens, to ensure peace among citizens by safeguarding individual rights, to maintain peace during extraordinary circumstances. So, what is the right answer? To maintain peace during extraordinary circumstances. Now the question is, which of the following is not the responsibility of the police? Why? Because during extraordinary times is when the military will step in. Okay. Next question. 1 more minute. time up. Usual practices and religious rites. I've already seen this in the example question. So now one more minute I'll give you for this. Law ensures people's religious and social rights absolutely and unconditionally. This is what it says. That's why when you read the passage on the whole, this is again an inference based question. On reading the passage from the first line, you will be able to understand the passage constantly talks about how rights are being maintained during extraordinary time, what happens during ordinary time, who takes charge, customs and traditions, how are they managed, and all these things is discussed very clearly in the passage. Now we are moving into a new passage. So now there will be no guidance. For the first question, I will be waiting for 3 minutes. Okay, when once the question is displayed, I will wait for 3 minutes. I want you to read the passage very carefully. It is a very small passage. Read it very carefully. If you find the answer, comment it. So now let's do this passage in a very slow manner. I'll give you 3 minutes time for each question, and the time starts now. This passage is completely an inference-based passage, so please read it sentence by sentence and try to comprehend it. Cut down this passage and try to understand it. Time up. The right answer is full of glamour. So now let's move on to the next question. Time up. Answer an obstruction to traffic. Next question. Answer centrally located in London. Question. No Londoner wants to be in Piccadilly Circus. So we have come to the end of the session, and I'm so happy that all of you have actively participated in this. So I just want to give you a small recap of what we have seen. We had seen what is reading comprehension, and the three main types are direct, indirect, and inference. So remember to look out for clues in the passages. Don't jump to the passage as soon as you get to see your reading comprehension. Read your questions first. Find the keywords in it and then go back to the passage. First time you read the passage, remember to do a very detailed critical reading. From the second question, try to do skimming and scanning. So I'm really happy to do the session with you. Until I see you in another verbal webinar session, I'm Chauncey. Stay home, stay safe.